Doctors of Reddit, what's the best asking for a friend story you've heard? Wife's dad is a urologist. When we first started dating, a friend of mine wanted her to ask if any of the penis enlargement pills were legit and actually worked. She went with the asking for a friend approach, and he immediately assumed she was talking about me. Thanks, babe. One girl was interested in laxatives for a friend. She tried to learn everything about the dose, where, what to buy, how to drink. She was brought in a week later with complete intestinal atony. She tried to lose weight so much and drank 2 or 3 tablets at a time. I asked my doctor about AA for a friend of mine. Really? Years later, the doctor still asks me how I'm doing with my sobriety. I've stopped trying to convince him I really was asking for a friend. I was asked the following. So if I swallow cum and flush it down with vodka, do I still get pregnant? Single quote. She was in early 20s. She waited for her actual friend who broke her nose in a bar fight. Doc. Had a guy who just got out of jail a few days earlier came in with his GF who had signed in for an STD check. Walk in to meet him and he says casually, "Is it possible to get gonorrhea in your throat?" At that moment I knew he had gonorrhea in his throat. Lady walks in and goes, "So if you cheated and got pregnant, but then had sex with your husband, would the baby become his?" It took everything in me not to laugh. Do you sleep with hot male patients? Asking for a friend. Not a doctor but public health worker. Kinda NSFW. Had an older man come into our clinic asking for a specific type of STD check. Guy's ex-wife was going around telling rumors that he was having sex with his goats, so was wanting to know if there was a way we could do a STD test that could prove if he hadn't had sex with any goats. Through this whole conversation, he just abruptly asks, so if someone was having sex with a goat, what STDs could they get? Quote, that dude is totally fucking his goats. Edit. Typo. Not a doctor but pharmacist. Someone called the pharmacy one day. A young guy. I picked up. Excuse me. How much does Viagra cost? Is there anything cheaper? I have someone that needs it. I explain everything and suddenly, will it work if I take it with alcohol? The guy began asking for someone else. At the end was for him and was asking just because he wanted his little one to work while drunk. Not mine but one of the older pharmacists I work with went out to help this 20-ish girl with some med questions. She then asked him about condoms and said, if you were to do me, what condom would you use? Yeah, he just walked away. My father is a doctor and he got a call once in the middle of the night from his call share doctor's patient. The man asked what to do about a bump on his friend's arm that he scratched and something came out. He mentioned it was leaking a little oil now. It was a zit. He scratched a pimple. Woke the whole family up at 3 a.m. because he had to page my dad over a zit. Not a doctor, but I was an intern. I was in the OPD and this man from a different province came in and told me his friend has injected petroleum jelly in their member years ago and that now it's getting painful. He came back the next day and showed his lumpy member. Edit. For clarification, this is done to increase girth of the penis. Not a doctor but I used to work next to AA pharmacy and my boss, a 55-year-old man, asked me to go buy him some condoms for his nephew. Edit. A pharmacy. Not AA pharmacy. My phone likes to double letters. Studies have been done about the effects of THC on glaucoma. When I worked for a glaucoma specialist, we had a hippie-type person come in with their family member for a new patient eval and asked the doctor to sign paperwork okaying a medical marijuana Script for the patient's glaucoma. Problem was the patient was totally fine. Didn't find any signs of the disease and his eye pressure was within normal limits. And the doctor did not appreciate having someone try to trick him. Eye doctor here. Finally closed our offices to all but emergency care. Last year or so I had a staff member ask me, for a friend, if she got shot in the eye with command. Is now getting mild discharge, is that okay? I looked at her eye and saw discharge. Went to the cabinet, gave a bottle of antibiotic to her for her friend, and then went back to my patients. 2 days later I look at her and say, your eye is looking much better today. She says, thanks. The discharge stopped a half day after using the drops. Quote, who you asking for? Another family medicine doc called an ear doc yesterday on the cell phone asking what to do when you get soap in your eyes. Choose wisely, folks. There is one dream where in my dream, I'm Spider-Man, but I'm losing my powers. I'm climbing a wall but I keep falling. In my dream. Actually, it's not even my dream. It's a friend of mine's dream. Doctors are all busy ATM. One of my besties called me late at night after his B-day party. He said someone who was staying the night wanted to have sex with his GF. They were drunk and a little uncoordinated. And somehow the frenulum, the little string thingy at the tip of the penis, ripped. And it won't stop bleeding. I gave his friend some general advice on stopping the bleeding and recommended a trip to the ER. The next day he asked me if I had any recommendations for urologists for his friend, because he needs minor surgery on his pee-pee. I told him to cut the bullshit. And in response he sent me a pic of his injured penis. So, long story short, his wang got a remodeling and he is still with this vagina dentata sporting woman.